Thanks so much for joining us today. So we'll go ahead and get started. It's nice to meet everyone. My name's Molly. I'm on the client success team here in New York from EdApp, and I'm joined by Marshall Eskew today, our manager of training and business development for Tommy Bahama. Welcome, Marshall.
Thanks, Molly, and good morning to everyone. Happy to be here and kind of just talk a little bit about how Tommy Bahama uses EdApp, how successful it's been. So yeah, very, very excited.
Thank you. And yeah, for the agenda today, we'll start by hearing a bit about Marshall's experience using EdApp, and then we'll jump into a Q&A. So please put any questions you have throughout during the webinar in the Q&A, in the chat, and we'll also take some live questions at the end. So with that, thanks again, Marshall, for joining us. Why don't we kick off with the introduction? We'd love to hear about your role and yeah, how long you've been using EdApp.
Yeah, of course. So, and I guess I'll start with one little, I saw everybody kind of feeding into the chat saying good morning. And I saw one person say they were from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is actually where I grew up.
Oh, no way.
Really, really great, cool little part of the state right near University of Tennessee. And it's an awesome part of the country. So yeah, Oak Ridge, definitely pay a visit to it if you've never been. So my name is Marshall. I am the manager of training and business development at Tommy Bahama. So I oversee a lot of our third-party relationships with brands such as like Maui Jim or Olokai, and a lot of the how it's managed or how some of the training or events or understanding in the stores is received. And then to that, I also oversee all of our training content that is deployed through EdApp for our food and beverage side, our retail, our guest services. All three of those teams or lines of business is the content, the training that I oversee, which has been awesome being able to utilize EdApp to deploy that training to all three lines of business. EdApp has made it incredibly easy. We've been using EdApp for a little over a year. We fully rolled it out to all of our stores about a year ago. And we've had, it's just been received really, really well. Our associates have absolutely loved using the platform, and it's been really easy to create the content and then also to get that content out to all of our store individuals or store associates, same with guest services and food and beverage.
That's great. Thanks so much, Marshall. And yeah, just to jump right in, we'd love to hear a little bit more about what you think makes EdApp such a good tool in the retail environment specifically.
Yeah, of course. So I think EdApp is very, very unique and very special, especially for the retail environment, because it is a micro lesson based training platform. We're very, very hard or very, very unrealistic to assume that, people are able to sit down for multiple minutes at a time, 30, 45 minutes at a time to complete training. So the micro lesson platform or the micro lesson style is so important, especially in retail, because, you constantly have guests coming through your door on the sales floor. You're not working a traditional 9 to 5. So the ability to just step away and complete a training in, 7 to 10 minutes is crucial. Plus, I think it also kind of forces you to be very direct and very to the point when you are creating that training content. As a trainer, it's so easy to just get way into the details and provide way too much information in a training, but creating on a micro lesson platform makes you be a little bit more to the point.
That's great. Yeah, great point, Marshall. And to that, actually, how does EdApp help you manage training in a seasonal and very high turnover environment?
It's crucial, right? So, all the content that you create as you move into a holiday season or you're seeing times of high turnover, you don't have a lot of time to prepare necessarily, right? So it needs to be that just-in-time training concept of kind of need to be able to move on the fly and get content out quick and be, receptive to what you are seeing in the field. And then also your ability to communicate to the needs of those seasonal hires or why that high turnover is happening. So sometimes you don't have a lot of time to, prepare the training content. You need to get the information in there as quickly as possible. So EdApp is a awesome tool and it's a tripped over my words there. It's incredibly helpful. It's easy to leverage a lot of the information or the content that you need to, get to your teams.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Marshall. And speaking of the holiday season, how does EdApp help you prepare your team during that holiday season?
So in a lot of different ways, right? So guests are constantly going to be in the stores during the holiday season. That's when we see our highest traffic, right? So, but we still need to be able to get training content out there quickly. And I think your ability to use videos within EdApp makes it really, really easy to get some of that content out there, along with just being very direct and to the point, right? So we don't always have time to step away to take that training. So to be able to just get little snippets or little training content pieces into EdApp makes the holiday season that much easier for all of our associates.
That's great news. And what has your experience been deploying EdApp to your stores and your restaurants?
It's been very interesting, but it's been great, to be honest. Obviously, it couldn't be two more different lines of business, right? Than, being in a kitchen or necessarily being on the sales floor. My experience is I've had to learn a lot, right? I think the most important part about being a trainer is learning and understanding all of the things that you need to before you start creating that content. And then on top of that, just communicating with the individuals in the stores or in the kitchen or behind the bar, and understanding what they need to know or what they're struggling with in terms of learning. So my experience with it has been great. It's given me the opportunity to really communicate with a lot of people, learn a lot of things that I didn't know beforehand. And then, on the other side, of the flip side of that, very rewarding to know that I'm helping, right? You put all that effort into creating the content, you put all that effort into communicating and understanding the needs of all of your associates. And then it's very, very fulfilling to, roll out a training and hear a lot of great feedback and feel like it was received really well. It's a really good feeling.
That's great, Marshall. And I can see in the chat here, there was a request for some statistics. So I'm just going to jump up and leave this open on the webinar so you can see a little bit about how much training Marshall has created for his team and what the actual statistics are between training completions and how many people this has been launched to. And Marshall, you just mentioned the feedback that you received from your teams. Do you mind elaborating a little bit more on that? How has it been received by your different employees?
Yeah, of course. So it's funny, we just rolled out a lot of our content to our food and beverage side. So to me, it was, taking the content that we've created for retail. And it's like, okay, we need to be very creative, be a little bit different when it comes to that Marlin bar. So, we recorded a lot of our cocktail training videos behind a bar in one of our store locations and made it a little bit more like a Food Network almost kind of feel to it, of talking through the build of making that drink. And I think when you can switch things up or switch the style of the training format, it just is that much better received by the individuals completing the training. And we've had a lot of people reach out, not just to say that they like it, right? Because you always want it to be received well, but also that they're learning something and that it makes their job easier, right? And it cuts down on that time of trying to learn it in the moment, and they receive all that information prior to actually having to do it.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Marshall. And I know a crucial part to your experience has been sharing the load with your managers. So allowing store managers to assess project progress and also having a hand in the training. Would you mind walking us through a little bit what your store managers' experience have been like?
So obviously, they've probably taken on the biggest load in terms of responsibility for anybody, kind of within the company, because they're responsible of, making sure all of their store associates get logged in, making sure that they're actually completing the training content. So I've had a really, really great time and a good connection with a lot of our store managers by them reaching out just with questions or any, struggles they're having getting their associates logged in, or being able to check their analytics, understanding the analytics that they're checking, communicating about prize draws, or even conveying excitement about someone in their store winning a prize draw, which has been awesome. But the store manager experience has been great. And for me, starting off, I took a personal responsibility to make sure that if a store manager needed something, if they sent me an email to, respond as quickly as possible, right, and always be available to them, especially early on when they're trying to roll this out. Anytime we roll things out to a store managers take on a lot. So I wanted to kind of
Yeah.
relieve that stress as much as possible and be a point of solution and just an easy point of contact for them. But all in all, I think the experience, the relationship that I've created with a lot of our store managers has been phenomenal, and they've done a phenomenal job at making sure that the implementation of EdApp within our stores has gone really, really well. And then also giving me feedback, right? Of, hey, what can be better? What can be created? Hey, this is what we need. Or, hey, maybe this didn't hit quite as well as we were hoping to. So, but no, it's been phenomenal.
That's great. And I'm so glad that the store managers are able to participate in that way. You mentioned a little bit about your prize draws. Do you mind just touching on briefly what those look like the different types of prizes and how you use those?
Yeah, of course. So they've definitely evolved, and we have increased the budget. And when I say evolved, they've definitely grown over time because of the excitement and because of the participation that we've gotten from the field each time we've done a prize draw. Because obviously, when you start off, you open up the star bar or the prize draw to the field, you never know, are they going to take time to step away to play? You always hope that they will. And then the first time we did it, it was crazy, and people were spending stars like crazy, and the prizes went very quickly, which was a great feeling to have it be received that well. So it has definitely grown each time we've done. And every time now I'm starting to get emails or questions anytime I go visit a store, or just emails from our store managers or district managers. Hey, when's the next prize draw going to be? Hey, when's the next prize draw going to be? Like, I've been earning stars. I've been going back and recompleting courses to earn more stars, or stars they didn't earn in the past, just so they could use them in the next prize draw. So that aspect of it has been a huge win. And I think anytime you can incentivize through gifting or through that prize draw or through those contests, it just adds that extra layer of excitement.
That's great. It's very exciting. And what impact have you seen overall on the business with this training platform?
So I think we've seen a huge growth in a lot of our sales, obviously, and a lot of our guest interaction or conversion, and seeing those numbers both climb. Obviously, you always want to be able to say, hey, training's the primary reason that everything is going great versus everything not going great. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that play into all of our successes at Tommy Bahama. I just hope in my turn, or in my opinion, that, anytime I put out a training on like an item per se, that, at least it helps each individual sell one more unit, right? And to me, that would be a huge, huge indicator of success, is that it makes an impact on at least one employee or one individual in every store to sell one more unit, or to feel a little bit more comfortable in terms of conversation with the guest.
That's great. And I know, Marshall, you came to us because you were already using the iAuditor platform, another platform under the Safety Culture umbrella. And for our iAuditor customers on the line right now, how do you use iAuditor and EdApp together?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think it's one that, if you use iAuditor solely or you exclusively use EdApp, to seriously consider utilizing both, because they play hand in hand with one another so well. Obviously, iAuditor is your, looking at the operations that you're conducting in stores. You're creating an assessment of whether it's an employee, whether it's a store, whether it's a district, and you're identifying weaknesses within your system, right? Whether it's safety, whether it's operations, whether it's engagement, and to be able to immediately take the results of that audit and utilize it to create training makes your life that much easier, right? So it allows you to identify immediate problems where you can get immediate wins in terms of what you need to create. Because sometimes, obviously, when you have so much content that needs to be created, but it's hard to gauge a level of priority, it can seem overwhelming at times. But utilizing iAuditor and utilizing the results that we see from iAuditor allows you to kind of create that priority for your training content. whether it's product knowledge on certain items or a certain area of the business, which is going to allow you to drive more revenue if you're creating training content for that, or whether it's an operations or a safety course or concept that allows you to create training content around that allows you to obviously make more money by saving money. And I saw one question come through of like, what is iAuditor? So iAuditor is essentially like literally it's a checklist of sorts that allows you to audit operations or audit things for us in our stores, right? So whether it's literally looking at the organization of a stock room or the sales floor or speaking to guest engagement, it allows you to answer a series of questions to assess the performance of whatever it is, that subject is around.
Great. Thanks, Marshall. And I'm so glad you're able to use iAuditor to inform your EdApp training. That's wonderful news. And I've heard that we have some great questions from the audience if we'd like to dive into the Q&A. Bobby, do you have some questions for Marshall?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a couple of questions around the content that you upload to the app. So I had one question about, is the content self-developed? And also, are you using any EdApp courses from their content library?
That is a very good question. So as of right now, almost 90 lessons, there's 2 lessons, I believe, that were not self-developed. So we've taken a lot of the content really that we just had from past training platforms, this, that, or the other, updated it, and then went in and created every lesson, every course ourselves for the most part. One nice thing with it is Molly, her team, especially as we were kind of rolling out EdApp, she was a huge asset and then also helped me create a few of the courses early on, which was massive. And then also since we have paid or we have purchased an additional kind of package that where if we really feel overwhelmed in terms of creating that content, that we're able to send some of those concepts or some of those training material over to Molly and her creative team. And they've helped us create a few of those courses as well. I have not taken, I believe I've only taken one course from the actual pre-built content library and moved it into our training platform. The only reason I feel like I have not done that as much, which I know I want to in the future, because they have a lot of great manager concepts or a lot of great experience concepts that are currently in that content library. For me, the immediate push was, hey, let's get product knowledge in there, right? That's first form of training content that I really, really wanted to get out to our teams. And they don't have any pre-built courses on pants already, right? So it's hard to like take a pre-built course and like move it in when it's about a shirt or a pant or any type of product that we carry. So that's why we've had such a high percentage of self-developed courses.
Great, thanks so much. And then I just have one more question here about the review process of lessons. Dan was asking, are you finding that you're reviewing the same lesson multiple times? So if you could just speak to the review process there, whether that's internally or courses created by EdApp, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the review process, a lot of it comes from honestly our field leadership as well. So we take the time to create the content, we review it ourselves, and then our first step is getting it out to a lot of our district managers or our field leadership, who then go through that course before it actually gets to our retail teams to help review a lot of the content and make sure not only is the content accurate, but also just visual appearance, grammatical, everything. So it's really kind of a team concept or a team review process, to be totally honest, which I've been very thankful for, because once again, if you're only looking at it from one lens and not always the lens of really, really crucial. So that review process, it starts off with the actual training team and then moves to a lot of our and after that, it gets pushed out to the actual retail teams.
Awesome.
Great.
And I just have one more here
Great.
about allowing employees to complete lessons. So Art here is asking, how much time do you allow for your learners to complete a lesson? Like, is there a specific like amount of time that you do that? Is there some allotted time that they take out of their workday where you allow for them to do that, or is that structured at all?
Yes, to a degree. So right now, the average completion time for any one of our lessons is about 11 minutes. So it obviously doesn't take a large chunk of your day to just complete a training. What makes it complicated is, once again, so we're talking a retail environment. So schedules aren't, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We don't have that luxury of that kind of daily structure. So really, when we get content out, we usually release about 2 courses a week, roughly, depending on what's going on in terms of the business. And we allow them about a week to complete those 2 trainings, right? So it's taking about 20 minutes to step away throughout a 1 week period. And, whether that's just finding time when you're actually scheduled or having to make time if everything's really, really busy. And I also think that's what is one of those things that's going to be really important as we move into the holiday season is, right now, 20 minutes may seem easy, but when you get into holiday, 20 minutes becomes real hard. So being able to accommodate to the needs of the business, and which is another reason EdApp is a great tool, because you can really trim things down and make it very direct and make it very to the point. And that's also why I love doing the videos as well, because a 10-minute training can be converted into a 3 to 4 minute video, which at times, and kind of, I guess, how everybody is with in terms of learning, they visually speaking, it's much easier to receive information through a video and through that audio. So yes, I would say the expected completion time is about 1 week, and then it's going to take about 20 minutes worth of their time to complete the content we come out with on a weekly basis.
Great. Thanks, Marshall. And I see another great question here from Gerard. He's wondering how long it took for you to get EdApp up and running and launched. And additionally, what percentage of your courses are developed by EdApp and what percentage are developed by you?
Yeah. So to get it up and running, so when we kind of rolled EdApp out, we did it in waves, right? So it took about a month and a half from the very first group being rolled out to the last group. And then before it rolled out, I would say it probably took 2 months of, taking time to create content. And I wouldn't say, obviously, it wasn't 2 months of just sheer concentration on creating content every day, because obviously you have other aspects of your job that you need to get done while trying to create that content. But we knew, and we definitely went into the rollout knowing that we weren't going to get all that content or all that information that we wanted to in, because that could have taken, as much time as we would have wanted to. We wanted to roll it out to the teams as quickly as possible, with the understanding that we were going to continue to roll out content on a weekly basis. So it was identifying, hey, this is what we want it to look like on day one, but then to roll it out to an actual group or a team of stores. I would say each wave took about a week of getting everybody the ability to log in, understanding how to access EdApp, understanding how it works, using the admin side. So I think if the communication going into it is really, really explained well, it should take about, once you fully roll it out to your teams, about a week.
That's great. Thank you, Marshall. And I have a question here from David. Have you used EdApp for any software training? So for instance, like internal systems training at all just yet?
We have not for that, just because I would say that's fairly limited, right? There's only so much of that training content you would need to create for the retail, food, beverage, or guest services side. And then I also realized that I skipped one aspect on the last question of the content creation. So I think as of right now, Molly's creative team has helped me create about 17 to 18, I think, lessons thus far, I want to say. And then we pulled 1 or 2 from the actual content library. So I would say Tommy Bahama has created roughly 70 of the lessons itself, and then utilized outside sources for about 20.
Great. Thank you. And another question from Chris on the topics you use it for. Have you used it for onboarding just yet? And if so, are there any tips for using it in that way?
We have used it for onboarding, especially very recently, but I would say the biggest tips are, I think one very, very important, onboarding is incredibly important. If you have a bad onboarding experience, then that incredibly diminishes, your understanding or your perception of the company that you're onboarding for, right? So I think one important aspect of onboarding is utilizing the observation mode, where you're literally being able to complete training as I am the trainer and I'm training the new employee. Because sometimes if you just turn it over and without sitting there, or, kind of walking through that new employee through the business, through the process, through what makes Tommy Bahama really unique, some of it can be a little lost. So I think combining the lessons and that observation mode is a huge win when creating an onboarding platform. And it also allows you to, stay organized, right? So your observation mode, it's essentially, you can create it like a checklist that walks you through all the things that you need to complete with whether it's day one, week one, month one. So utilize observation mode, create that training checklist essentially for yourself when you are rolling out your onboarding content, that allows it to be consistent. And it also, like I said, it creates that checklist format, so it's easy to remember everything that you need to train on. And then also, I would say with onboarding, make the content movable. So for us in the retail environment, the ability to take an iPad and walk around the store and do training on EdApp on an iPad makes it that much more engaging, right? Because I can go feel a shirt, I can move to different areas of the floor or the kitchen instead of just sitting behind a computer and walking through every aspect of onboarding.
Yeah, that's a great point. And for everyone on the line, the feature Marshall's referring to where you can observe a learner is that practical assessments feature. If you were on our last webinar, you saw our head of product, Dave, demo it. Bobby, maybe you want to put a link to that guide in the chat, but that's one of our new blended learning features intended for one-on-one training. And just like Marshall described, as a manager or an assessor, you can watch your employee do something, watch them apply the knowledge that you've just given them in the training. So thanks for bringing that up, Marshall. That's great. And I believe that looks like it's all of our questions. So thank you so much, Marshall. And it was really great to hear about your experience. Actually, we just had one more come through from Chris. Do you use EdApp for users to access information in the flow of work? So when they're on the job, or do you push the learning ad hoc? So are you pushing it when they're on the floor? Maybe you have a new product come out.
Yes, I believe so. So, right. So anytime we come out with new content, we're allowing them to really be able to step away, whether that's, if we release new products to the store, it hits the store middle of the week, and we have training content on that. We want them to be able to step away whenever they need or whenever they, things start to slow down in a store. I think once you create too much structure of when training needs to be completed, it makes it that much more complicated to get done. So we will definitely push the content out, inform our retail teams of, hey, the training is live in EdApp, and then allow them to kind of just be able to step away when they need to step away, depending on whether it's they're opening up the store and they need to get it done early, or prior to the store opening, or if the sales floor starts to die down, whatever they're able to do, or whenever they're able to complete that training content is when they do.
Great. Thanks, Marshall, and great questions from the audience. Does anyone have any more questions? Please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A. Great. So it looks like that's it. So thank you so, so much, everyone, for joining. And special thanks to you, Marshall. It was amazing to hear about your experience. You put together such a great program in EdApp, and we really appreciate your time. Um, Everyone else will send you a recording of this webinar. And if you have any other questions, please let us know. We're happy to answer them. Happy to ask Marshall for any other tidbits of his insights. So thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you guys so much for obviously being a part of this. This was awesome. Molly, thank you for having me on to be able to just talk a little bit about my experience. So very cool. Thank you.
Anytime. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.